Okay. Well, you already know the question or the topic. So, yeah, we'll just start with the first one. I kind of don't like this question, but I thought about it. I was like, this isn't as good as I thought it was when I originally did it, but we'll do it. So, basic expert, you're gonna get 2 right in a row here. The 2 main questions. Cool.
Okay.
So, how does the OSR community and by community, it doesn't just mean Twitter. We're talking people who create the games, the people who play the games, the people who are in social media and so forth. Like, how does the OSR community contribute to the hobby as a whole?
Okay. I think they do a relatively good job of getting people interested in old games and providing an alternative to people that are maybe getting a little burnt out on 5e or modern games. I think there's going to be a big void. There's going to be a lot of people searching when WotC's newest revision of 5e comes out, and people are going to be, I think, immensely disappointed in it, or sort of just like, I'm kind of tired of this, I'm tired of, I have my 2014 books and I'm looking for something different, and this is my 2014 books, but worse. I think that will be a good contribution to keep people in the hobby and playing games rather than just dropping out and quitting, because I think that's a real worry or possibility. I think in providing a good alternative to stuff.
As far as the overall community goes, and I know we kind of covered this already. You don't have to repeat yourself. I'm just doing this to help folks out there who watch the videos. Rule books, online resources, and community support options that are out there. I mean, can you name a couple? This, again, not a quiz, but just that people can check out.
Yeah, like, so, I have my Guilded server. There's lots of different. There's a forum I lurk on. I don't really comment on it ever, but I lurk on it, and I think it's called RPG Pub. I've heard good. I've seen good things there and heard good things about it. I think Likely Arrow in your chat is active on there. It's a good place to get resources. But yeah, Drive Through RPG has a whole like OSR section. So you're interested in that, going there and just like looking on that filter, you're gonna find like a smorgasbord shotgun blast of content and useful supplements and things like that that you can use. So
okay. So I'll dive right into the second question for you and make these other guys wait, because you're that important. You guys got to check out the Basic Experts. He's got his own YouTube channel. It's all in the description below. I will get links to his books if he can send me links before he goes. Else I'll have to just try to remember that you guys can check out like your Drive Through RPG. I was going to call it channel, but publisher channel where they can find all your stuff there, whatever. If you can send me that link, I'll put that in the chat as well. You should check out his stuff. But the second question then is, how is the OSR movement evolved over the years? And you guys touched on a lot of this, but we're going to bring that circle into a point and just get to the center of it. How has the OSR movement evolved over the years, and where do you see it heading in the future?
So it's in a precarious place, in my opinion. There's this balancing act that needs to, I think, occur. So I think the OSR started obviously with trying to get old school rules into the hands of people, and it's sort of evolved at this point into, well, what would happen if I did, BX in space or AD&D in space, or, I want to have this, like, we kind of touched on it a little bit, which is the danger of like, how many times are we going to reinterpret these rules? That's the dangerous side. So I think the future is settings. I think that will be the key to, I think, a longevity in it, is providing like equipment or settings, dungeons, adventures, not necessarily restating the rules. Like, you can do your BX and space thing, but you don't need to restate all the rules. Just how are the classes different, and what is the equipment? Because like, we know how to resolve attacks, we know how to resolve saving throws. You don't need to. We can just bolt that on to OSC or whatever we're playing. And I think that's where the real creativity shines, and where I think a lot of the real neat stuff happens and can happen. Where we can have a lot of content that can just kind of bolt on to the stuff that we already have. And I would like to see more stuff like that, so yeah.
Here's a final opportunity for you to promote yourself here. since you're not going to be here for the sign off, what initiatives do you take to support and grow the OSR concept and games?
Be the change you want to see in the thing that you love, I guess. I try and make stuff that I try and look out there, and I try and make stuff that I don't see or that interests me personally. Like, if I don't want to run it, then why am I making it? Right? Like, there's a lot of people that make stuff and they're like, they never run their own stuff or never use their own
That
stuff.
makes no sense to me. What?
And that's a big problem in the 5e sphere and in the OSR. Is a lot of people don't run the stuff they make. They just are just the PDF mills churning out, stuff, and might be made even worse with like Chat GPT at this point too. That's a whole different issue. But I try and make stuff that I like, that I care about. Like, I think Aztec stuff is cool, so I made an Aztec thing. I think, 0E plus chainmail is cool, so I tried to compile everything into a book that I really do personally use in my games, right? Like, I was running 0E before, and it's like, this really sucks to like reference 3 books. I want to try and compile everything into one book so that it's just in one book for me to reference. So I just try and make stuff that I actually think is useful, and I actually find useful. And if I figure if I find it useful, someone else probably finds it useful too. At least I hope.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here. You can, if you want to hang out, or if you can hang out, go ahead and do so. If not, if you've got to go, that's why I asked you both questions at once here. But since I'm not going to get an opportunity to say it in a moment, I'm just going to say it right now. Thank you for being here. I always love having you on the show. There's a couple more that I actually have you in mind for that I would like to talk to you about. Specifically, one on Zero Prep and another one on railroading versus Sandbox. If you can,
Yeah.
Those are in the future. I'll give you, once I have dates and time. I think this railroading versus Sandbox, I already have a date for it, so I can send that to you.
August 9th.
What is it?
August 9th, you said.
Okay, August 9th. There we go, August 9th. I'd have to look at it. If you're available August 9th for that one, I'd love to have you on that show.
I'll double check, but yeah, I would love to come and talk about both of those things.
I'm going to try to get Heathen Dog on there because I really want your Zero Prep versus his, Sandbox versus his just insistence on no, can't be done, railroad them all the way, so forth. I want to see that dichotomy.
Yeah, I love that because people are like, that's impossible. And I'm like, I literally do it every time I sit down to play. So like, I don't know what the problem is, but yeah, that'd be a fun conversation. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate it again. As always, you're welcome on here whenever you want. So, but to get back on topic here, I will move to Sean, and
but I will bounce because I'm gonna.
Yep, not a problem. Have a good night, sir. Thank you.
Read The Hobbit to my daughter. So, see you guys. Pleasure talking to all of you.
You as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Sean. So, go back to the first question for you: is how does the OSR community contribute to the hobby as a whole?
I mean, I think just at the baseline of being a community and talking about it, keeping it in the consciousness. Otherwise, the game would just fade away and be nothing. So by generating new content, by even though people are publishing 1 billion retro clones, it still keeps it constant. It keeps it fresh because people are coming up with new ideas. They are suggesting new ways of playing. So yeah, by just keeping it going, that in itself is huge.
I know there's some folks out there that are irked about me using the word community. I think some people get really pedantic about that word. Community just means that we share an experience. We share the OSR. Doesn't mean that we all sit in lockstep with each other. I think some people need to kind of calm down on the use of the word community. When I say tabletop RPG community, I mean a whole bunch of people that play tabletop RPG games. It doesn't mean that we're all, thinking exactly the same.
Yeah,
so,
no, for sure. But
simmer down, people.
Yeah. But it keeps things active. I mean, if Castles and Crusades and Osric hadn't come out, would we be talking about the old stuff? Right? Would somebody have stepped up and done it, or would that be it? Would Wizards of the Coast have pretty much buried all the old stuff in terms of the older guard still playing it would have died out, no new players. But now we've got a situation where, because so much attention is on it, people are trying, people are experimenting. So that in that alone, that's a pretty big deal.
Do you have any Again, I'm going to give you all the same follow-up here because I think it's a good one for people who watch this video later. Are there any specific either rule books or online resources or community support places that that you can shout out for folks or point them in the direction? I know you said like Google and so forth, but something more specific that they might want to check out?
I checked out. I found Dragon's Foot because I was looking for first edition resources. There was another one. N World. I'm a little annoyed with N World. There was some exchanges where some people were basically calling me out for lying. And when I told them to go fuck themselves, it's like, well, I didn't use those exact words. The moderator told me I'm not supposed to defend myself when people are calling me liars. It's like, well, fuck you. So I just sort of, they are a resource. They have forums where you can talk about a lot of stuff. So whether or not I like the moderators, they are a decent resource for people. So that's two good places. I don't peruse a lot of Discords. I only go on channels of people I know. So but I understand there are a lot of Discord servers as well. So you can probably find some old school, some OSR Discord servers. A friend of mine who frequents them tells me that there's a lot of shitty people. A lot of shitty people. He gets booted off because he doesn't take shit either. So so I can't speak to the quality of the people of the sites I haven't been on.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The Discord servers, in my experience, because we have a reputation here, even if it's not modern anymore, but we have a reputation here of being not just highly opinionated, but being hateful, horrible, people, et cetera, for things we've said and done in the past. And I don't take any of that stuff back. It's just we've shifted directions intentionally. So doesn't mean that if there wasn't something to rant about, I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't rant, yeah.
The thing is people take everything so dang personally, and that's wow, just wow. And I think that's just part of being a tabletop RPG gamer, because I don't know about the modern group of people that kind of came up with it as 5e was becoming popularized. But just to be fair, most of us, maybe not every one of us, but most of us back in the day in the 80s and 90s, we were the outcasts. So we finally found the thing where it's like we can latch on to, this is our thing, this is the part where we're good at. And then so, we finally at the one time we get to lash out at somebody, so to speak. I don't know how true that is. I just feel that I think there's some aspect of that purity culture, and everybody wants to be the right puritanical person. And if you're not exactly in lockstep with somebody, and here, I'll call one out before I go to Cody. On the Palladium server, it's not really official, but it's kind of the one that they advertise. They don't like us there because Heathen Dog talks about coalition states as the good guys. And they take that as like, well, if you think that they're the good guys,
you must support Nazis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, really? And I just talk about how it makes sense. Not that I think the coalition are the good guys, but I completely understand that if things are popping out of the sky, ready to, as I've recently said, can lift open the roof of my house, reach in like it's grabbing a snack and just eat me. And these guys got body armor and all this other stuff that can protect me. You know what? I might not like them, but hey, thanks for keeping me safe, buddy. I'll pay my taxes and become illiterate just for you. But that makes us bad people. And it's just weird, these weird real world hangups that people have over the point of a game, where I've unfortunately had to kind of tone it down a little bit. On my Discord server, I didn't care what you said. I just did not care what you said. You two handle it. If you think he's a retard, oh no, can't say that word. And you think he's a retard, figure it out or go away. I've had to tone it down, unfortunately, recently, but Discord has rules. Anywho, my point in saying that is, some of these communities, I agree with you, can just be autistic. It's the word I use.
The buzzword is toxic.
Yeah, but you know what? You can weed through a lot of that toxicity all right, Cody, go back to that first question for you. How does the OSR contribute to the hobby as a whole?
Well, I think we already discussed this a lot, how it contributes. I think one of the main things is it keeps a lot of these old games alive, as we said before. I think that's important. I think it's important for anybody, no matter what you do, no matter what you love, to remember where it came from. Whether you're into music or you're into chess or you're into role-playing games or you're into TV shows or movies or whatever, you need to remember where it came from and the roots of where it began. And otherwise, you can't understand where it is now. So I think that's really important to understand the history of where it came from. Even a basic understanding and keeping that alive, I think, is very important. The other thing I think is great is it's brought in a old/new philosophy of playing games. Like we said, like it brought in all these old philosophies back into the modern zeitgeist of gaming, which I think is great. Now, like I said before, I don't think you have to adhere to all those philosophies, but I think it's great that we have more things to take from, more things to grab in our gaming, right? So I think that's great. I think the other thing that's great about it, like I already said before as well, is that it encourages a lot of creativity, design, and freedom in role-playing games. It kind of broke out of, hey, anybody can make a role-playing game now, right? Like
Yeah.
I can make a game, you can make a game. Like it really encouraged that. It kind of brought that to the forefront that anybody can do this. And not only can you make a game, you can run a game, right? Like it's not like this mystical thing to be a game master or, design an adventure, or publish a setting, or you can do it. Anybody can do it, and you really can. And like I think that's one of the really cool things about the OSR is it brought that to the forefront that you can do this and you can put this out, and you don't have to be like slick and cool and all professional to actually do this, right? Like you can just hand draw out like a dungeon, and you can get your buddy that can draw pretty well to like do some illustrations, and you can come up with some cool, if you got some really cool idea, and you could publish some little dungeon or adventure or setting or a whole new game if you want. Or you could just keep that in-house, right? It just gives you more. I think it's just inspired creativity in all kinds of ways in role-playing games, as far as like, designing, running, playing, whatever. Like it's really opened up the freedom of role-playing games and brought it back to what it should be, which is just having fun and role-playing and playing a character and getting back to basics and expanding out from that. So I think everything the OSR has presented, for the most part, has been a really positive thing, a really good thing. And it's really had a big influence on, the modern zeitgeist of role-playing games, right? I mean, there's been more independent role-playing games now than there ever has been, and more people coming up with more crazy ideas than there ever has been. So I think that's a really positive thing, a really good thing. And it just more stuff we have out there in the ether, all for the better, right?
Are there any specific rule books, online resources, and community support? I guess I should have worded that differently, because that feels funny to hear the word community support options. But for folks that are looking to dip their toe or maybe just dive straight into the OSR?
Yeah, well, I think, me and Sean already kind of talked about this. I still, even though it's kind of outdated, I still think it's the coolest and best resources, all these blogs and forums. There's so much and was so much good discussion on those blogs and forums going on, that even though, like, I think the younger generation has moved beyond that, I think they should go back and look at some of those blogs and forums.
But you have to read something that isn't just a headline?
Yeah, you got to fucking read. I'm sorry. But like, there's some really good stuff going on there and some really good ideas. Yeah, the DM's
even if you don't play AD&D, this is a great resource.
Yes,
it's a fantastic resource. It's one of the best role-playing game books ever written. Everybody should read it if you're going to run a game. Like, even if you don't use everything in it, it has some fantastic ideas. It will definitely get your wheels churning in your brain. But yeah, like I think, Discords are okay. YouTube videos are okay, but I think the best thing is like those forums and the blogs, have really good stuff there. And also just go look at what people are doing, go buy, Victor's Modern Necessities, go buy, Basic Experts, white box, because even if you don't run that game, you might get some cool ideas out of it. I know I have, just buying some of these games and supplements and settings and stuff that all these OSR creators have put out there. It's really like expanded my ideas that I would have never came up with, right? Like, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool idea. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to use that for my game. That's a really, really good idea. Even if you don't play that specific game or play that specific style, you can really gain some cool ideas, even just buying some of this stuff. And most of it's pretty cheap too. That's the great thing. We already discussed this in the OSRs. Most of the stuff you can find out there is pretty reasonable. You can purchase. So there's tons and tons of great resources out there. And it's just a world full of great creativity and great communication and great ideas. And like, most of the community is very welcoming and very open to like new ideas and very interested in what you have to say. And like, so yeah, I mean, like, yeah, there's lots of great stuff there.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue on with you with just the next question, which is, how has the OSR movement evolved over the years, and where do you see it heading in the future?
Well, I started off this whole discussion saying it evolved a lot. The OSR, what it began as, when I was involved in the very beginnings of the OSR. I was there. I was like talking to these people and like encouraging them and working on stuff with them, like at the very beginnings of this whole amorphous thing. What it started out off as and what it's become is a totally different thing. And I think it's great. Like, I think some of the people that are into the OSR don't think it's so great, but I think it's beautiful that like they took this idea of, hey, let's preserve the history of role-playing games. Here's what these games were, here, and we're going to present them in this format. And then younger generations got a hold of them and took them in different directions. Well, that's how things evolve, right? Like you take things, you take new ideas, you take old ideas, and you take them in different directions. And I think that's excellent. And I think that's the future of the OSR. It's not going to be the original vision of the OSR. And it already isn't, right? It's already not. Like, the most popular OSR games, for the most part, like, it's kind of half and half, I guess. You have this half that's very like, very pure and like old school and like playing in this very specific philosophy, but you have this other half, this taking that old school philosophy and taking it in new directions. And I think that that's probably the evolution of the OSR. And I think that's a good thing, right? Like, it's just taking role-playing games in a different direction, taking old philosophies and new philosophies and combining them together, taking everything in between and creating a new atmosphere and a new way to play and explore role-playing games. Anything that is, like I said, that presents new ideas that you can take and grab from is good in my book. So
what do you do to stay updated with the latest developments in the OSR community or movement?
I don't.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I don't keep up with it anymore. Like I said, when it first started, I was involved in it because I love old school role-playing games. I love the history of it. I play those games, and I was very much involved in the very beginnings of the OSR movement. I was there when people were making all these first OSR games. And I remember discussing it with all these people, and like I remember all this. Like, I was there in all these forums and blogs and stuff and whatever. But like, it got to the point where I just kind of lost interest in what people were doing, and I just focus on what I'm doing. Like, I figured out what I want to do. I took what I wanted from it, and I'm moving on in my own path. I found my own road, and that's where I'm moving. Now, that's not to say that I'm not still learning. You should always still be learning. You should always still be taking ideas. I'm not the master. I'm not. I don't know it all. If you think you know it all, you're fucking wrong. You should always be like sucking ideas in, and I am, but like, I'm not keeping up with the newest. I don't keep up with the Joneses, right? Because I do think right now a lot of the OSR has gotten kind of stale. Like I said, I think a lot of people are just rehashing, retro clones of D&D. Like it's like just there's like slight tweaks and house rules and whatnot. I'm not really interested in that, but I am interested in like the little stuff that's going on in the side where people are taking those ideas and expanding them and doing different things with them. And I take note of that. But I don't really keep up with it anymore. If you know what I mean? Like I just don't have, I don't really have the time for one. Like I'm not like, oh, what's going on in the OSR today? Like I just don't really have the time like I used to like look at forums anymore and all that stuff.
I'm very similar to that. For me, it was when I finally came to the realization, again, I know somebody's going to take exception to this. I don't care, that there's just too many of them. I don't care anymore. I have in fact, I gave a few away. I gave away Basic Fantasy. I have nothing against Basic Fantasy. Chris Gonerman, I've actually talked with him not talk like this, although we have talked about possibly doing that sometime in the future. But I mean, I've interacted with him. There are other folks out there. I mean, hell, there's folks that right now are in our chat that make games, and it's no issues with them. But no, I'm not going to buy your game. I have everything I need, and I actually have way more than I need. I don't need Hyperborea, but I do really love the layout of that game. I don't need Sword and Wizardry. Let's see. I have Sword and Wizardry, Hyperborea, Osric for Golden Glory. Why the hell do I have for Golden Glory when I'm an AD&D 2E guy? I still got it, whatever, and among others in there. I just don't need anymore. So I'm with you on that. I don't follow it all. Plus, to be fair, online, and I don't want to take Sean's thunder from him if he's going to say anything about this, but it came up earlier with the whole idea of, there being some toxic people out there.
Yeah.
You know what? That toxicity, my toxicity feeds off of that toxicity. So, if I'm not going to do as much of that anymore, I just don't want to see it,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is a toxic element to the OSR, and I kind of touched on that earlier. I don't think it's not the biggest element of it anymore. I think most of us in this OSR community are pretty open to new ideas, or if we're not, like we just kind of like, okay, we just kind of tune out, right? We don't like what you're saying. Okay, fuck you. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I mean, that's how I approach everything. Like, if I don't like what you're doing or saying, I'm not going to like talk shit about it. I'm just going to move on. Right. Like, I'm like, all right, that's bullshit. I'm just going to move on. So, but I think the future's bright. I think there's a lot of, I think like right now we're kind of in a stalemate, but at the same time, there's like this little offshoot of the OSR that's really bright. And I think the future is pretty good for not just the OSR, but role-playing games in general. I think there's a lot of good ideas resurfacing that are old ideas that are being brought to the forefront, that are becoming new ideas, and there's new ideas being injected into that. So I think overall it's going to be a bright future. It's going to be great, and I'm really excited to see what comes of it.
Okay. All right, Sean, same question for you. How has the OSR movement evolved over the years, and where do you see it heading in the future?
Yeah, I don't know how much more I have to add. Cody kind of nailed it, but I mean, it's grown. Obviously, that's a big thing. It has grown huge. And going into the future, I mean, the fact that we've got content creators creating just a boatload of stuff for our games, even if they're not, people who are creating supplements and modules and adventures. I'm a module guy. I love running prefab scenarios, and I'll search through various forums and Drive Through RPG looking for indie creators, who are, there's one, I can't remember the name, but they did some for Swords and Wizardry, $1 a module. It's like, I'll download a bunch of them and then print them up. And so I think that's fantastic. So we'll always have content, and, it's brilliant, but yeah, it's grown. So, the evolution is, through that trial and error, we're going to get new stuff. We're going to get innovations, even stuff that we might not have thought about. Innovations in design. Look at OSE. Look at there's Ben Milton did an adventure called Waking of Willoughby Hall. It's again brilliant layout. Actually, I've got a copy here.
Does he have his own game? Is
yeah,
he the Knave guy? Knave, yeah.
But like this, the way the layout of Willoughby Hall is, and it's not. It's I mean, it's OSR BX adjacent, but it's also written in such a way that it's easily adaptable to other systems. So things like that with the end and the setup is quite good. So yeah, that's what we'll see. Well, we're seeing those innovations. No modules written like the Keep on the Borderlands. Keep on the Borderlands is a fantastic module, but it's not fantastically presented, right? So you have to comb through walls of text and parse the module out. Where something like Waking of Willoughby Hall is designed in such a great way that you can just flip open the book and play it right away. It's very easy to parse. So yeah, I mean, I'm sort of rambling here, but yeah, that I think that innovation is sort of the key evolution that we've seen.
So we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I want to bring it back to us because now we're talking about the future of it. You know, there are folks out there. I don't know how loud they are anymore. Again, I don't really pay much attention to this anymore, especially after I got a lot of pushback a few years ago about Forbidden Lands. But for the folks who say, you know, it can only be the 6 D&D stats or it's not OSR, yada, yada, yada. What, in terms of the future, is there a future for that? Because, like, I guess for me, and I don't know if this is true or not, what I would like to see in the future of the OSR is stop with the D&D clones. Do some, you know, copy more Traveler. You know, take your, you know, instead of giving me a whole bunch of little books, can you make one big thick book? You know, and that's your take on the classic Traveler. Or you see what I'm saying? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I think I kind of hinted at this earlier that, like, I want to see a stop on the D&D clones. We got enough D&D, right? Like, I mean, we got between the
official and
and I think you are starting to see that slowly, like, you know, Bear's doing Heroic, right? Which is
that's actually a really good point. Yeah, I would consider Marvel Superheroes OSR.
Yeah, and I you know, we have Against the Dark Master. We have stuff like that that's slowly kind of creeping in. I think we need more of that kind of stuff, where it's like these old school systems and philosophy and going back to the past and bringing to the future new ideas, but old ideas, but a new game, right? But better. Like Heroic's not Marvel Superheroes. It's a new game. It's better. Yes. Against the Dark Master is not, it's MERP, but it's better. And, you know, like, that'd be cool to see like some more of that kind of stuff for other games besides just D&D. Take the old school philosophy, the old school systems, and bring them into the future, make them more modern, make them better, right? Like, not a lot of these old school games are not perfect. I'll be the first to admit it. I like them.
No game. Let's be honest. No game is perfect.
No game's perfect, but like it could always be better, right? Like, I think that's one hang up the OSR has, is people don't think things could evolve and get better, and they can. Like, things can get better. Like, I like these old school games. They're great as is. They play perfectly fine, but there could be better things. There could be improvements. There could be more interesting ideas that you could tack on or add to them and bring them into the modern light and make them better. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I agree with you. Like, I think that is what I would like to see from the OSR movement, is break outside of D&D, make your own system, or evolve an old system and bring it into, you know, make it your own, right? Like, bring it into the modern light. Take these old ideas, inject new ideas, and make something new.
All the Rifts wackadoodles out there.
As much as I loved Rifts, I hated the MDC bloat.
That's a topic for another day. Like,
yeah, absolutely. No, because I have thoughts on that as well. I love MDC, but you're 100% right. The bloat is just crazy. All right. Well, again, I said this a few times. I have note cards worth of information that I still didn't get to ask, but I think we've come to the end of our time here. Want to thank the Basic X for being on here. Go check out, he didn't send me the links, but I'll try to find them. Maybe somebody else can send them to me for Drive Through RPG to go check out the books that he's done, like Atomic Punk and Makahito. I always call it Macaroni just to mess with them. And White Box, et cetera, et cetera. So again, thank you for having me on here. I'd like you guys to close out. Go ahead and show yourself. We'll start with Sean. If you've got a channel, if you've got anything you want the folks out there to know about.
Yeah, channel's Mage's Musings. I don't have any products to show, just my show itself. I've got episodes. I've recorded 3 episodes this week. I'm doing them in blocks. So they're coming. New Night Below episodes and new Old School Essentials episodes, my recaps. And one of these days I might introduce a new puppet, a new character. Stay tuned.
All right, Cody, how about you?
Yeah, so I do have a little YouTube channel, but lately I've been taking a break. I haven't been doing anything with it, and I'm not sure I'm going to continue doing anything with it. So I'm not going to shill it if I'm not going to support it, but you can go check it out. I mean, there's some stuff on there. GM Cody.
Well, and on the video side, this isn't going live for a month. You might have a Cody. You might be back and raring to go a month from now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know yet. I'm kind of like right now, I'm kind of like in limbo. I haven't really been motivated to do anything lately. But who knows? I might get back to it. Whatever. You can go check it out. GM Cody. I have a little YouTube channel where I do a lot of reviews about old school role-playing games. I run live plays of different games like Palladium Fantasy, AD&D Second Edition, Prowlers and Paragons, amongst other stuff. And I talk about, go really in-depth reviews, going like literally page by page through a lot of these books. And I do have some stuff in the works, so look forward to that. Whether I continue the YouTube channel or not, I am working on some other projects that are role-playing game adjacent. I'm not going to talk about it right now because they're not fully 100% ready.
Tease! Oh my God, what a tease!
Yeah, I want to tease you a little bit, but there is some other stuff that I'm working on. It's going to happen, so look forward to that. I will be announcing that in the future. So.
Okay, and you can look forward to Cody not until August now, but in our it was Palladium Fantasy, now it's something else. But our Codex Albana game where he is the voice of wisdom for poor Athane.
Yes, yeah, I do play. Whether I continue doing the YouTube thing or not on my own, I still do play in Bears games, and I'll probably be playing in some other people's games online. So you can find me a lot of times on Bear's channel playing in his heroic games or in the Codex Albana game or whatnot. So
we have a potential Star Wars game coming up with Brian from Gaming with ADHD.
I wonder where you got those books from. Weird. All right, so let's hit the chat and then we'll call it a day. That's right, you missed out on the chat if you left early and thought it was just ending right there. It's thunking. So the OSR doesn't have a community. It has 2 or 3 groups who all hate each other. Okay. That might be true. Are you sure it's only 2 or 3 groups?
It's more than that now.
Factions. They're factions.
Factions.
Yeah. I think Basic Expert hit it on the head actually with the different like Protestant denominations. So that's kind of how it is with the OSR.
And then you got the Orthodox folks out there all laughing at them.
Yeah.
The future of the OSR is Greyhawk. Is it? Okay. Well, maybe.
Sure.
Greyhawk is a good setting.
It is.
Come on. I view this whole group of YouTubers as a community. And that was kind of to the whole thing of the term community. I know some people just get really butthurt over, we're not a community. It's a generic term used to just kind of, there's a football community. We all don't like the same team. No, we don't even, some watch college, some watch NFL, some just watch the cheerleaders. Who knows? But, it's still...
But on the YouTube front, we are a community. Like, we interact with one another, and then we talk, and we're a community. You invited us on here because of the connections we have elsewhere. It's like
knowing full well that there'd be a little bit of differences. Oh no. Print on demand has been a boon. I have an issue with this. He's right, but I'm one of those people who cannot stand products that aren't edited or aren't at least trying to be professional. I do not want your refrigerator art, and I do not want your napkin notes and call the game. I really like. It's a boon and a bane. The boon is, yes, everybody can get out there and do it, but you still got to put some effort and quality into it. I don't care about one typo in your book. Hell, I can read novels from the 80s right now that have typos in them. The point is, though, is you just can't be completely retarded in how to write the English language. Or I would say don't publish it. Keep that crap for you and your friends.
Well, I would say if you're going to do something that's not professional, just put it out there for free. You know, there's
But that's fair. Okay.
Just throw it out there, put it for free. But if you're gonna sell it,
hire a fucking editor.
Yeah. Put some effort and work into it if you're gonna charge for it. But if you're just like wrote up something in Word document, like did some like shitty art, you know, cool. That's cool. Like I want to see it, but just I don't want to pay $10 for it. You know, like just throw it up on your blog or throw it up on your website or whatever. Like that's cool. Like I'm cool with that. But
put on Drive to RPG for pay as you go or pay what you want.
Sure.
You know,
yeah, totally. But like don't act like it's a professional product though. I agree with you there.
Rex Steele says, sorry, kid, but this is a hobby that requires you to read. Do you know how many complaints I've heard about that? I'm 100% in Rex Steele's camp. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that every player has to read the full rule book from beginning to end, but you have to read enough of it to understand what your character does and how you're going to play the game. I shouldn't have to sit there and be like, we'll walk you through the entire game. No, you actually have to do a little bit upfront reading. And then once you decide that you're going to stay at the table or in the hobby or however you want to call it, yeah, you actually do have to understand how the game is played. We shouldn't be catering to you constantly about, okay, your spell works like this, or your laser gun has these effects. You have to read. And if you're not willing to do that, this is not the hobby for you.
I agree to an extent. I think if you're like brand new to the game and like you're just coming into it, mm-hmm. like I will show you, like just sit down, make a character. We'll show you how to make a character. We'll show you what to do. But after a certain point, you should know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's where I have a problem. I don't mind bringing you in completely green. I don't expect you to read the whole fucking rule book that night and all that stuff. Like you can play a couple sessions and not like completely know what's going on. But after a point, I start getting pissed off when you didn't even spend some time to like read the rules and understand how the game's played. You know, like
do you know any serious hobbies out there that don't have an investment of time or money or both?
No,
I don't know one.
Well, they all do. And I have this problem with wargaming too, because I'm a wargamer too. And there's a lot of people in the wargame community I get pissed off at that have really minimal investment in that, right? Like they show up, you spent hours painting this army, right? Like hundreds of miniatures and learning the rules and stuff. And you show up and this guy's got a bunch of gray painted, like just gray plastic, right? Like that pisses me the fuck off. It's like, look, if you don't paint your fucking miniatures, go play a computer game. Same thing with role-playing games, right? Like same thing, same point. Like it is a hobby. That is part of the hobby. Like if you're not going to paint your miniatures, you're not going to like invest in learning the game and invest in what the hobby is all about, then don't do it. Go find another hobby, right?
So I guess where I differ with you on that is I absolutely will learn the game. But the reason why I didn't get into Warhammer is because we have to have miniatures and paint them with 3 colors. I'm like, fuck off. No, I don't. I proxy my BattleTech stuff, and I can still name every rule in the old BattleTech compendiums that I could run that game without using a manual at all. And my spider, we're proxying that as a battle master today because I'm not going to buy mechs. And if it wasn't for Gaming with ADHD, Brian, he upped my mech count from 8 to 12. Those 8 mechs I've had since 1990, and they've been good enough for me the entire time. We use pennies with little arrows pointed on them. We used
that's fine if it's like a mutual thing, right? Like if we're playing BattleTech and we're just playing with like the old box set with like the paper counters and stuff like that, that's cool. I played BattleTech like that for years. But if like we got a group that's playing BattleTech and we all have like painted miniatures and like 3D terrain, and you can't even like spend the time to paint your 4 mechs, your lance of mechs, get fucked. Yeah, you know, like I'm just being real. Like I think that like that's part of the hobby of like wargaming, and same with role-playing games. Like it's the same investment of learning the rules after a certain point. Now, if you're brand new to the game and you just show up with like you just bought like a box of miniatures that's not painted or whatever, cool, dude, come on, I'll teach you how to play, I'll teach you how to paint, I'll teach you everything you need to know about the hobby, I'll let you know what you need to get. Same thing with role-playing games. Like if you have no knowledge about role-playing games, come on, man, I'll roll a character for you, I'll tell you how to play, I'll tell you what dice to roll, here's some dice, I'll fucking buy some dice for you. But after a certain point, I expect you to like understand what your spells do, understand like how the game works, understand how to roll for initiative. Same thing applies to wargaming.
Except for I'm not painting my miniatures because it looked like mud. So you're getting gray because it wouldn't matter anyway. Because if I were to paint them, it would just look like mud instead of gray. What do you want, brown or do you want?
Well, I'll paint your miniatures. God damn it!
I'm a little more forgiving players not learning the rules if they're very good at role playing. Like,
okay.
In which case, I honestly kind of don't want them to learn the rules because the rules will hamstring them. They'll just interact with how I describe things, and then they'll just take. If I say, okay, roll the d20, then they'll know which one that is or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they can just play the game without fussing about the rules, then I'm not as concerned about them learning the rules.
I almost feel like I stand corrected with what you said there, because I think I agree with that, because I'm one of those firm believers that the game master tells you when to roll dice. You don't tell you when to roll dice. Mm-hmm. So, if what you're doing is just part of the flow, then we do it. And I'm not talking like just hand waving rules. I'm just saying, no, I don't need you to make a scouting check when you open the drawer where the item is. Like there's no check for that. You did it. Right. Let's move on. So I'll have to think about that, because I think you may have kind of corrected me.
I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, I still think you should understand like the basics of the game, right?
Yeah, even if that's what I say. I'm forgiving. Like, and if somebody who's like that ends up taking like a wizard or a cleric advanced classes where you have to do some homework, then you got to learn it. But guy comes in like he's the fan favorite of my show. The guy playing Onion Buns Bumblestump, the halfling. He hasn't made too much effort to learn the rules, be outside of showing up for the table, but at the table he just loves playing the character and he loves playing the scenario, right? It's the actor in him, and that's immensely fun. That's more valuable than somebody who spends all the time trying to master the rules and win the game.
I 100% agree with that. Like, I much prefer somebody that's invested in the game more so than like mastering the rules. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I really, to be honest, I think like I'm more interested if you're just like completely invested in the game. Like, the more invested in the game you are, like the more I'm apt to forgive some of that, right? Like, I don't expect you to know every rule and do all that stuff, but I do think you should have some understanding of it. But like at the bare minimum, like I just want engagement. That's all I want. Like because I've had some people that are just not good at rules. That their head just doesn't go there. Like, they don't understand. Like, they no matter what, they're not going to grasp like every rule and every nuance and everything. But they're engaged. Like, they're really into their character. They're role playing well. They show up every time. And I'd rather have that person there than the person that knows like every rule. I completely agree with you there.
Or the disruptive rules lawyer. Or I do actually have a player. One of my players. He's not the rules lawyer type, but he does constantly read the rules, and he's always calling me with questions and what if would this be allowed, or can I do this? And it's like, shut up, right? You're over investing and you're bothering me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't like it when rules get in the way of what I would consider role play, where they play the character sheet instead of what the character would do. Well, it makes more sense for me to stab Cody because he turned around, even though I'm faced this way, and put that back attack. I'm fighting. I'm focused on this guy. I've been fighting for 3 rounds. I'm doing my thing, but by the numbers, I only get a +1 to hit him, but I get a +4 now to hit Cody. Why would I not take that? Because it doesn't make sense. I mean, okay, that's kind of a bad example, but the heat of the fight, what's your character doing? It's like, well, hold on, what number is the best? Now, what's kind of cool is in most games, numbers typically relate to, well, is it better to shoot somebody short range or long range? Well, I'm just going to shoot the guy in long range because he's wearing red. What? That doesn't make sense. But you know what I'm saying? Like you're going to probably shoot the guy in short range because he's more dangerous. He's coming up to you. He could possibly hurt you better, yada, yada. And the rules tend to facilitate that. But there are some times when it's like the best course of action by just numbers is to do X. But really, you're going to sit there and look at the numbers and not play organically to your character. Like, again, that's how I consider the role playing. I know some people get, like, the war gamers really get mad at me about this. Like, no, why would you wouldn't do anything else other than numbers? And you're just you're playing a role. You're not acting. So you would just do what the best number is. And that stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the rest of this chat here so we can actually end this. We have people actually waiting to come in for segment 5. So Malachi says here, the best part of blogs and forums is that everything is saved. Dragon's Foot has a section of Gary answering questions.
Yep.
You cannot get that on Gilded or Discord.
Yeah, he was answering up until he died. About 2 weeks before he died, it was his last entry.
Yeah. Good stuff, too.
Lord Mateus, for $5, thank you for the $5, says, check out Lamentations of the Flame Princess. PX, but with weird horror and terrible shit that you will need to deal with. Not for the faint of heart. Yeah, I don't have it, but I've seen videos on it, and I've seen people talk about it. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's like D&D meets Chult. No, Chult's cartoonish. This isn't cartoonish. And Law Dog for $4.99 says, the younger generation doesn't read. They even have an acronym for it, TLDR. Too long didn't read. For the grog nerds out there who might not know what that means. But I actually like, that reminds me of, I'm Air Force, not Army, but it's an Army term, but the Air Force has it now, bluff, bottom line up front. So a lot of times when I write the bottom line up front, which is basically the TLDR, just in, that's more, civilian vernacular. And then you have the discussion below it. Like, so I don't know. I the TLDR thing never really bothered me, but I do get it. Like I've had people tell me, I'm not reading all of that. I just want to sit down and play a game. Well, like Sean said, you pick the wizard. You have to know what your spells do. Well, I'll just figure it out as I'm playing. Yeah, that's not how that works.
Especially not with spellcasters.
Right. The Ends Night says, with print on demand, I require my players to buy the book, dagnabbit. Wow, requires them to buy the book. I'm not going to disagree. That might be pushing it a little bit too far, but I'm also not going to disagree. I mean, you do what's right for you at your table. We're changing our rule set over to this Call of Cthulhu thing that I'm going to have to get the rules for and read. It's a bit frustrating, but it is what it is. But I'm obligated. I've got to figure out how my character is going to be used in that these new rules. Crafty for $5 says, RTFM, read the freaking manual, get the game to the table. The way forward is playing the game. Addendum 0. If you don't read the rules, don't argue with those who have. What if you're the game master and you haven't read the rules?
Then you have bigger problems.
That's fair. Good point. Good point. Thank you for the $5, Crafty.
I'm not advocating people don't read the rules. I'm just saying I'm a little more forgiving when they're engaged with the scenario and they're a new player. Right. Yeah.
and yes, sometimes we talk here, and this happens all in the online community. We talk in generalities, and some people really want pedantry, and I'm the opposite. I tend to talk in generalities. Yeah, my table, you do these things, and then people go, I've never played your table. There's always exceptions. Yes, a new player, absolutely, we're going to give more flexibility to a new player. But generally speaking, the rule at my table is XYZ. Whatever. It's like, it's okay to talk in generalities, folks. It's okay. And Crafty says, wrong! Mastery of the rules is being invested in the game.
Nobody said
mastery. Mastery of the. He put a smiley face after it, but I'm not going to show that one because I want to leave on the troll. So. All right. Well, thank you, guys. I think this is a really great conversation. I hope folks out there, I'm going to put this up right now. I hope folks out there had a good time with this. I hope, man, again, as you could tell just from this last segment that I said was going to be quick, and who knows, it's probably an hour and a half long. There's just so much we can talk about with this. It's supposed to be a 2.5 hour segment, and we pushed 4 hours, or video, and we pushed 4 hours. And I still don't even have half of my follow-up questions I didn't even ask. And those were just based on those primary 8 questions we asked. Somebody's going to put a comment, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about that? Why didn't you talk about that? Because this topic can go anywhere. That's what's awesome about the OSR. That's what's awesome about just this segment, the way the show is run now, is we can always come back and approach this topic. Maybe I talked to 3 different folks. Maybe I talked to the 3 same folks. Who knows? But I hope you guys had fun on here. I hope the people in chat had fun watching. We're going to move into segment 5 now, where we just kind of let down our hair. For the last few minutes, we'll definitely do the giveaway, so the stream's going to run a little long. But guys, thank you very much for being here, and I hope everybody has a great day.